If you had put £1,000 into Bitcoin in 2015, it would have been worth over £300,000 at its peak. If you had put £1,000 into Bitcoin at its peak in late 2021, it would have been worth under £300 a year later. Same asset, same investment, completely different outcomes. And understanding why those two things are both true is exactly what this video is about. By the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly what cryptocurrency is, why it makes some people wealthy and destroys others, and the honest truth about whether it belongs in your financial life. No hype, no fear, just the complete picture. Before we talk about cryptocurrency, we need to talk about something most people never stop to think about: money. What actually is it? Take a £20 note out of your wallet. Why is it worth £20? The paper itself isn't worth £20. You can't eat it. You can't build anything with it. Its value comes from one thing: trust. You trust that somebody else will accept it. They trust somebody else will accept it. And because everybody agrees, it works. Money is essentially a giant shared belief system. Now here's the part most people never think about. More pounds can be created. The Bank of England can increase the money supply. Governments can spend newly created money into the economy. And over time, inflation reduces what your money can buy. A pound today doesn't buy what it did 10 years ago, or 20 years ago. Then came 2008. Banks failed. Governments stepped in. Huge amounts of money were created to stabilize the financial system. For some people, that raised a question. What if money existed outside governments? What if it couldn't be created whenever somebody decided more was needed? What if nobody controlled it? And that is exactly why, in 2009, someone decided to build something completely different. That person, or group, was known as Satoshi Nakamoto. Nobody knows who they are, and what they created was Bitcoin. Let's strip Bitcoin back to its simplest form. Imagine a public notice board that everyone in the world can see. Every time someone sends Bitcoin to someone else, that transaction gets written on the notice board permanently. Nobody owns the notice board. Nobody controls it. It just exists, maintained by thousands of computers around the world simultaneously. That is the blockchain. Bitcoin is the currency that moves across it. And here's the key detail. There can only ever be 21 million Bitcoins. That's it. No government can create more. No central bank can create more. No CEO can create more. The rules are built into the system itself. For the first time in history, you had a digital currency that existed outside any government, bank, or institution. Whether that's revolutionary or unnecessary depends on who you ask. But it was undeniably different. And that difference is what made some people incredibly rich, and others incredibly poor. So how does that happen? How can the same asset create fortunes and destroy them? The answer is surprisingly simple. Bitcoin started with almost no value. Very few people knew about it. Very few people cared about it. Then more people started paying attention. Then more. Then more. Demand grew, and the price exploded. By October 2025, one Bitcoin reached an all-time high of $126,251. At that moment, it felt obvious to many people that it would keep rising. Just 4 months later, it had lost roughly half its value. People who bought early made life-changing money. Others bought near the top and watched their savings shrink dramatically. That's because Bitcoin doesn't produce earnings. It doesn't generate revenue. It doesn't pay a dividend. Its value comes entirely from what somebody else is willing to pay for it. That's not criticism, it's simply how it works. If people believe it will be worth more in the future, the price rises. If people lose confidence, the price falls. And when confidence disappears quickly, the falls can be brutal. Just 4 months after reaching that record high, Bitcoin dropped below $60,000, a decline of roughly 50%. Major cryptocurrencies, including Ethereum, Solana, and XRP, lost more than 60% from their peaks during the same period. That's why crypto creates such extreme outcomes. You are not analyzing a business, you are largely making a judgment about future demand. Will more people want it, or won't they? That's the question, and the results reflect that uncertainty. 53% of people who have ever owned crypto report making a net gain. But that means 47% either broke even or lost money. Nearly half. That statistic matters, because crypto is not a guaranteed path to wealth, and anybody presenting it that way is leaving out half the story. Now let's look at the part that crypto supporters often don't like talking about. The risks. Because there are real ones. First, security. In 2025 alone, crypto hackers stole $3.4 billion globally. That's a 55% increase from the year before. Unlike traditional banking, there often isn't a fraud department you can call if something goes wrong. If your account is compromised, your funds are stolen, or you send crypto to the wrong place, recovering it can be extremely difficult. Then there's volatility. Losing 50% in 4 months sounds shocking. But for crypto, it isn't unusual. It's happened before, multiple times, and it could happen again. Then there's regulation. Governments around the world are still deciding exactly how cryptocurrency should be treated. The rules continue to evolve. That creates uncertainty. And finally, there's complexity. Most people simply don't understand what they're buying. They see headlines, they see price charts, they see stories about people becoming rich, but they never fully understand the asset itself. That's dangerous with any financial decision. Which brings us to something that almost nobody talks about: tax. This section alone could save somebody watching thousands of pounds. In the UK, HMRC treats cryptocurrency gains as capital gains. That means if you make a profit, you may owe tax. The annual capital gains tax allowance is currently £3,000. Any profit above that threshold must be declared to HMRC. And here's the part many people don't realise. You don't have to convert your crypto back into pounds for a taxable event to occur. Even swapping one cryptocurrency for another can create a tax liability. Think about that. You could move from one coin into another, never withdraw a penny, and still create a taxable event. Many crypto holders have absolutely no idea this exists. So, if you own crypto, keeping records matters. Because the last thing you want is an unexpected tax bill years later. Now, after everything we've covered, let's answer the question most people actually care about. Should you own crypto? I'm not going to answer that for you. Instead, I'm going to give you 4 questions. So after everything, the history, the volatility, the crashes, the fortunes, the tax, here is the only framework that actually matters. Question 1. Do you understand what you're buying? Not the price, not the headlines, the asset itself. If you can't explain Bitcoin in simple terms, you probably shouldn't own it yet. If you can explain it to someone who has never heard of it, you understand it well enough to decide. If you cannot, learn first, buy later. Question 2. Can you afford to lose everything you put in? Because despite what some people claim, crypto is not a savings account. The value could fall dramatically. If losing that money would seriously damage your finances, the position is probably too large. Question 3. Is this speculation or investment? Buying Bitcoin because you believe somebody else will pay more in the future is speculation. That doesn't automatically make it bad. People speculate on all sorts of things. But calling it investing can sometimes create a false sense of certainty. Most financial advisors recommend keeping highly speculative assets, including crypto, to no more than around 5% of a portfolio. Question 4. Have you sorted the basics first? Your pension, your ISA, your emergency fund, broad index funds. For most people, those foundations matter far more than crypto ever will. Once those foundations exist, then you can decide whether crypto deserves a place alongside them. Not instead of them, alongside them. And that's really the honest truth about cryptocurrency. It isn't magic money. It isn't a scam. It isn't guaranteed wealth, and it isn't guaranteed failure. It's simply a new type of asset that asks one big question. Do you believe more people will value it in the future than they do today? Everything else flows from that. Subscribe to Pound Smart Pete.